Okay, we are about ready to get started. And I am live. It's 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm Rone du Beauvoir, and I welcome you to a presentation presented by the International Institute of Peace Leaders. I'm their International Executive Director, and I'm happy to have you a part of this presentation. So good morning to you if you're in the part of the world where it's morning, and I'd like to say good afternoon or good evening to you if you are in the part of the world where sun has already begun to set, and you're preparing for a meal, you're preparing for family time, maybe some time with your kids, maybe you're preparing, if you're the wife anyway, you're preparing the meal, the dinner, maybe some rice or one of my favorites, chicken biryani. Whatever it is you're doing at this hour, I hope you are utilizing this time well. As I allow people to come in, I want to address something very quickly. Today is Kashmir Solidarity Day, February 5th. And I want you to know that this is not a presentation to talk about choosing sides. This is not going to be a presentation to talk about who's right or who's wrong. Rather, I'm going to use my words to encourage, to uplift, to do as my mantra states, touch, heal, and inspire. I'm in hopes that the presentation today will shed some new light on your perspective about the fate or the current state of Kashmir. Whether you are from India, whether you are from Pakistan, wherever you are from, wherever you are right now, this is not going to be a presentation to put any nation down, to put down any thoughts that any group or body of people have. That's not the purpose of this presentation. You know the history, I know the history. Many people, I would say many Americans may not know, but all of us sitting here now know that Kashmir has really been under a curfew since 1947. Ooh, that is years before I was born. And I simply cannot imagine it. There are reasons for it that you agree with or don't agree with, that I agree with or don't agree with. It's hard to imagine, however, anyone agreeing to a body of people being suppressed or stagnated pretty much for all their lives. Their children and people being born into that nation in Kashmir who are born into captivity, and they don't understand, even when they're older, why they are in captivity. I look at Kashmir and what's happening with them and their state, sort of like I do the Palestinian territory and the Israeli territory. It's almost the same, isn't it? The fight for the right of what one party versus the other claims as their own. But today we're not going to focus on that. It is Kashmir Solidarity Day. And I want to talk about solidarity in the inception, in the beginning, and then I'm going to give you some tips I have and some ideas for you to think about going forward, even beyond today. The United Nations has implemented and put many strategies and, shall we say, orders, if you will, for lack of another term, in place in behalf or on behalf of Kashmir. If Kashmir is still in captivity, still under curfew, why then is it not working? Why then has it not brought about change? Why then are people still living under a curfew since 1947? I'm not going to debate that. I'm not going to challenge that. I'm not going to articulate who's wrong or who's right, but rather I'm going to empower you on, shall we say, another way to look at this and a way to maintain or manage your expectations. Let's talk a little bit about, before I get into my presentation, again, giving people a chance to join us. Let me tell you what I do and what I've been doing for quite a few years of my life. Some of you, or maybe all of you, know that I'm an award-winning international speaker. I have lived in more than 40 countries around the world. When I say I've lived in more than 40 countries, some people think they've lived in a country when they've been there 2 weeks. That was a vacation. That wasn't living there. When I say I've lived in these countries, I'm referring to a year, 2, 3 years in each given country. You can pretty well name the country, and I've lived there. And if I've not lived there 3 months, 6 months, a year or more, I've been there for 2, 3 weeks doing my work. As a speaker that I've done since really the late mid-80s, it was that platform that gave me the position, or shall we say the opportunity, to not only live around the world, but to understand the world, to embrace and embody those things that I knew about or had heard about and didn't quite understand. You understand me that when I convey that sometimes when you're in your own domain, there's a tendency not to know what's going on around you. And 2 or 3 minutes of a blurb in the news doesn't quite get it, does it? It doesn't give you a full perspective of understanding about what's happening in that nation. Why are people feeling the way that they do about any given situation? Good example, I'm in the United States at present, and before President Joe Biden, there was a man by the name of Donald Trump. Think what you want or may. I meet people all the time who think he was a great president. Okay. But if you live in this country, if you've spent time here, you know something different because you've been exposed to something vastly different. I would imagine that that would be the feelings of people in Kashmir. If given an opportunity to talk to them, they would probably enlighten us all on how they've been forced to live and how they've been forced to think about the world around them. So when we say Kashmir Solidarity Day, what does it really mean? Let's talk about what solidarity is. Solidarity is embodying or becoming a part of a unit that embraces the good of humanity, that comes together in some form of an agreement to challenge those things that are not working effectively in the community. Solidarity is becoming, shall we say, a partner with another group, with another unit to help escort or to change or to empower or to uplift. Solidarity is not only about change, but solidarity is about perfecting those things that are broken. Solidarity is about perfecting those things that are broken. How do you do that? If you are already approaching a situation where people don't agree, where people are very angry, where people have already made up their minds, where people have decided that change is not possible, how do you become one with a group, with a body, with an individual, when they're already closed off? How do you solidify change with people who don't want to hear what you have to say because they don't agree with it to begin with, even though they've not heard what you have to say? I grew up with a father who always said, seek first to understand and after to be understood. But this is not how we live today, isn't it? Wars and the desire for peace comes from a group of people who have come to some sort of understanding and want to come together to create peace, isn't it? That is true solidarity. Let me read to you what Wikipedia, what all of the dictionaries are saying about solidarity. I think it's really, really powerful. Unity or an agreement of feelings or action. Solidarity is about taking action, isn't it? An action that is going to change the outcome or the current situation for the better. It continues to say that solidarity is about an agreement and feelings of action, especially among individuals with a common goal. To me, that's fire and focus coming together. Fire and focus, what am I talking about? I'm suggesting that fire is already within you, which is a need to change, which is that, that determination to go towards a goal, to magnify an issue, highlight an issue that is traumatizing humanity and make it better for the common good for all in humanity. I've written out about 10 reasons that you and I should become very active citizens towards solidarity. I'm going to briefly go through it, and I'd like to also convey to you that if you are connected to me on Facebook here or LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere on social media, I'm not all that active on Instagram. I have my reasons, but on social media, you will see me doing daily posts on these particular, what I call top 10 characteristics of solidarity. And I will be posting in depth what you and I can do to not only further understand solidarity, but how we can become actively engaged in implementing solidarity. The international peace leaders decided that they wanted this presentation, in my opinion, today for today's reason. Today, February 5th, is Kashmir Solidarity Day. So we are presenting ourselves through this presentation as a group, as an organization that is ready to embrace solidarity with Kashmir, with the United Nations. This is one of our efforts to exalt change, to articulate the various ways that change can immediately take hold and take effect in Kashmir. Let's get to it. The first characteristic of solidarity is common good. You've got your ideas on what common good means. We all do. But let me tell you, in my professional opinion, what it means. The 10 tips I'm going to give you, or the 10 characteristics of solidarity. As I said, having lived all over the world as a speaker, as a global humanitarian, I have always had it in me. It's my DNA to find people in poverty, to find and locate people that are suffering and do something about it. It's my way of showing solidarity towards those who don't live the wonderful life that I live. And oh, let me tell you, I do live a wonderful life. Why? Because I get the opportunity to get on a plane when I'm allowed, because of COVID, to enter into a country. I get the opportunity, which I consider to be grand, to go into that country with the help and support of NGOs, to go to areas where people are living worse than dogs, where people are living the most unimaginable lives. And I get that opportunity to extend my hand in support, whether that's through food, whether that's through money, whatever it is that's going to uplift that community, that part of humanity in that part of the world. That, my brothers and sisters, is solidarity. I consider myself and call myself a global humanitarian because I am. I've lived all over the world, and humanitarianism is all about seeking those who are in humanity, who are absent and devoid of the good life that most of us live. If you're eating every day and you're not waking up wondering what you're going to eat, you are living a good life. If you are able to lay down and turn off a light and turn it on when you need to see or to read, you're living a good life. I have been in places all over the world, all over Africa, Pakistan, India. I have been all over the world. Good grief, even here in the United States. You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. There are people who are living without lights. There are people who live under bridges, and they have tents, and the light that they have is a lantern. Right here in the United States. So what do I mean when I say the number one characteristic of solidarity is common good? Here's what I wrote. You are to consider the good of others. When you understand what common good is, it means, and I am emphatically suggesting that it means you are considering always the good of others. Number 2, if you're just joining me, my name's Rone de Beauvoir. I am the International Executive Director of International Peace Leaders. Today is Kashmir Solidarity Day. And the organization decided that we should do something in our show and effort and support of Kashmir and Kashmir Solidarity Day with this presentation. If you were not here on the onset, I am not talking about who's wrong, who's right. I am not talking about in this hour why it's good what has happened to Kashmir or why it's bad, because clearly there are people out there who don't disagree with where Kashmir is. You know that and I know that. But that's not the purpose of this presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to talk about solidarity, to talk about peace, to understand where you and I are as individuals and how we can show solidarity to Kashmir, to those who are suffering under this curfew that they have been under since 1947. Oh la la. I don't dare tell you how old I am, but come on now. If I've lived in 40 countries, I'm not a millennial. We know that, right? I'm not 34. I'm not even 42. And we're going to stop right there. But I'm old enough to have lived in those many countries. But 1947, I wasn't born yet. Trust and believe that. So what I'm talking about now, as I see some new people coming on, I'm discussing the 10 characteristics of solidarity. I've already explained what solidarity means and what it should mean to you. Whether you are a member of our organization, International Peace Leaders, or not. And by the way, we welcome you, especially if you're all about peace and you've got some great ideas and ways to help implement peace globally in your country where you are, and you understand and are ready to become a part of a unit that spreads solidarity for the good of humanity. Hey, welcome. Okay, so number 2 is dignity of humanity. If you don't want to write this down but prefer to watch my animated way of speaking, that's fine. As I said also earlier, I will be posting all 10, not at the same time, but throughout the day, throughout the rest of the weekend, where I will disclose in full detail each of these characteristics of solidarity. The purpose is in hopes that it will guide you and encourage you to embrace solidarity in new ways, more effective ways, and I'm in hopes that it will add value to your own thoughts about solidarity. Dignity of humanity. Here's what I'm saying. It's the foundation of social teaching. Let me say it again. It's the foundation of social teaching. Social teaching is all about socially engaging. You may have seen a post I did where on Tuesday I spoke live on Zoom to millennials and shall we say university students, and I talked about my title was Empowerment, Influences, and Conquering Depression. Oh man, it was so powerful. The organization, it was a group in Turkey. The organization itself have over 70,000 members. They do what they call international talks. And it's a way for that organization, as I've understood, not only to support young professionals, millennials, university students, but it's a way to empower them to understand how to solidify their lives going forward, because they are the future leaders of today and tomorrow. There were 4 speakers, myself included, and all of the other speakers had great topics for where they are with the current work life, if you will. Oh, your girl here decided, nah, I'm not going to talk about business. I want to talk about your life. I want to talk about the issues of life. And to this very day, I am still responding to the things that I imparted to them. Let me give you one of the things that I said to them that really seemed to hone in on their thoughts, and it's lingering with them today. I talked about the 3 extractions in life. Extractions meaning things that are taken from us. Here's the first one, love. The second one, death. The third one, time. These are the 3 extractions of life given to us Whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, whether we agree with it or not, those extractions of life are handed over by God, by Allah. Love. Maybe you've never been in love before, but desire it. I'm in love right now with a man of Islam, very high-profile man. I grew up a Christian. I'm living what I teach. Hello? I'm living what I preach. I don't feel that in the one life I have, not knowing when my hour towards death is going to come, I have chosen not to live my life limited. I have chosen not to live my life scoffing at others simply because their religion is not the same as mine, or simply because they don't call God the same as I do, or because they don't have the same education I have. My life has no limits. It is open. And that is how I thrived living in over 40 countries. I didn't go into other countries telling them how much better life was in the United States or in France. As some of you know, I'm French and American. I'm dual citizen. But I didn't choose to live my life like that. I chose to live my life in those countries, embracing who they were, who they are, where they were. I chose to understand so that I could be understood. You can't go into somebody else's country and do things the way you want to do and don't expect consequences. So in those 3 extractions of life, I articulated love is the first one. God, Allah, Jehovah, whatever you call him, expects us to love one another. That's the first rule of solidarity. Showing love towards people, no matter who they are, no matter their skin color, no matter if they have thick, long hair, a wig, a weave, eyelashes, makeup, no makeup, but to show love towards humanity. I know people who don't love people if they don't live in a $2 million house like I'm in right now. Hello? Love is probably the greatest, and the way I was raised it is, towards all humanity, and certainly a great characteristic of solidarity. Number 2 is death. That's an extraction. There's a time to be born, there's a time to die. We're all living now, but one day we're all going to die. Oh, you may not want to hear that, but it's still the facts. That's a fact. You may love but never be in love, but you will experience it. How do I know that? Well, when you're born, your parents love you. When you get sick, your parents love you. Okay, different cultures have different ways of understanding what love is. You may think that honor killings is horrible, but in some cultures, that's appropriate. Like it, agree with it, or not. In some cultures, that is love because it's saving the face of the family. There's so many things that I learned living around the world that I've understood. And because of it, I am not the individual. I am not the woman I used to be. As far as I'm concerned, I'm one of God's grandest creations because I have learned that there are things outside of the world or the countries I grew up in. And it's because of that exposure that I do what I do today. I'm a global humanitarian, and I'm proud of it. The 3rd extraction is time. I told these young adults, time has no rewind. I'm looking in front of my computer and my iPhone. I can rewind or reboot or go back. When you're on the computer, don't you see a button that says, or an arrow that takes you this way? it means you can go back. If you make an error, you can go back. No, not with time. Therefore, time should be used wisely. Rise up and use your time wisely. You're not going to get it back. No matter what I sit here and tell you about living in Singapore, I can think back on those opportunities, but I cannot go back. I can go back to visit Singapore, but I cannot go back to that specific moment in time. One moment in particular, I stepped out of my hotel when I first moved there. I had a hotel apartment, and I had all the curls in my hair that I have right now. I wasn't outside 2 minutes, and my hair, what curls? I had none. Because it's right on the equator, women don't wear curls because curls don't last. So, all joking aside, what I'm conveying here is that 3 extractions in life really apply to how we approach solidarity: love, death, and time. Are there people dying unnecessarily in Kashmir? Yes. Unequivocally, I say yes. Number 3, under the characteristics of solidarity, is economic justice. Economic justice. Here's what I mean by that. We dignify people with work. People are not working in Kashmir. I don't know what they're doing to live or how they're able to live. But when I say economic justice, I'm saying we can dignify people with good working jobs. Isn't that the focus of world leaders today, especially in this global pandemic? Everybody in the position of being a world leader is trying to figure out how to bring the economy back, isn't it? I don't care where you're watching me right now. You're living in a country with the prime minister or president and a group of senators, ministers, who are trying to come up with ideas to change or empower the economy. The economies in most parts of the world were doing super before COVID-19. That has devastated the world. You see what I mean when I say there's no rewind on time? We can't go back. Stop looking for your government to return life to normal as it used to be. You're never going to go back to that. Neither am I. Now, going forward, life is going to be different. You may not like wearing a mask, but you better. Now, because of new variants, we got to wear 2 masks. I set up an appointment for my mother and I to get the vaccination here. It's quite hard to get it in the States at the moment, but we've got to have it. I've got to have it if I'm going to continue traveling to help people in poverty. Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to eventually find out that just to get on a plane, before you check in your luggage, you're going to have to show proof you've been vaccinated. Don't believe me? Keep living, keep breathing. You'll find out. Let's move on. Number 4 is participation. I'm saying that we participate in solidarity by living together in harmony. Living together in harmony is exactly what Kashmir Solidarity Day is all about. It's about trying to find the common ground, the balance, to live together in harmony. Number 5, peace. Of course, I'm going to talk about peace. It's everything I do. I'm the International Executive Director for the Peace Leaders, International Peace Leaders of Pakistan. I'm the Global Ambassador of Peace for the Knights of Peace of Amman, Jordan. I've been doing peace all my life. This presentation is about peace and how to bring peace and unity and solidarity to Kashmir. What I wrote in my notes for you to think about is the right to live with others irregardless to what they believe. You're not going to be, everybody around you in the world doesn't believe like you do. They don't believe like I do. But it's important to live in peace. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. But you do have to respect it. Respect to be respected. That's the first rule of peace. Number 6, peripheral option for the poor. What I'm saying here is that treatment towards people in the poor or who are poor are very vulnerable. So show special regard for people who are poor. That is solidarity like nothing else. I've seen people walk over people who are clearly poor simply because they're not meeting their social economic status. You know people like that. You've seen that, as have I. And I see it all over the world. I try with everything I have in me not to walk by somebody I see laying on the ground. There's some countries where you will never see that, Singapore being one of them. You're not going to see old gum chewed and stuck on the sidewalk in Singapore. It's amazing. If you've heard that it's very clean, believe it. I lived there 2.5 years. It's amazing. You're not going to see homeless on the street. You're not going to see them hiding under a bridge, under a tree. It does not exist. Let's move on. Number 7, rights and responsibilities. Rights and responsibilities. Show other people who are less fortunate than you, such as those in Kashmir, that they have a right to live. They have a right to be exposed to a good living. They have a right. And we have the responsibility of making sure that they have the same rights as the rest of humanity. Oh la la, do you hear me now? They have the same rights as you and me. As a black woman, let me tell you something. When these crazy white Americans, and yes, I meant to say it like that, because these QAnon people and this white supremacy, it's out of control in the United States. And it's whites that's doing it. I do not approve of any race taking advantage of another. I do not approve of any race thinking that they have the jurisdiction over another race. I don't approve of racism. I don't approve of appalling behavior through words, through speech, against somebody's race, against somebody's religion. Thank God for President Joe Biden, because the former president was a loony. Yeah, I said it. And everything was about hate, 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 division. What do you think South Africa was about during de Klerk's regime? It was about divide, rule, and conquer. And the former president of this country was all about that. I don't care if you don't like hearing it. It's the truth. I was here living under it. This is not life. This is not the life God intended. So, rights and responsibilities, oh, this is my favorite among the 10. I have watched black men and women in this country murdered because they were black. Here they have a saying, arrested while walking black, killed for being black. It's all kinds of things. There's a woman in Congress right now who got stripped of her community responsibilities because she's walking around on social media with AR-47s. And by the way, the United States has a fascination with guns. God help. And there are 3 progressive Democrats that she wants, I mean, she's publicly a congresswoman saying that they should be shot in the head. Is that responsible behavior that we should embrace by somebody who is supposed to be setting an example? You hear what I'm saying to you? It's not responsible. It wasn't responsible when a president did it, and it's not responsible when a congressperson, a senator, a representative, even me. So the rights that we all have should not be stripped from us just because. And you and I have a responsibility to exalt one another and to make life for all humanity much better than it is if it isn't. Number 8, stewardship of creation. I'm suggesting that creation around us, look at these young environmentalists. Look at people who are fighting for the environment. That's what I'm talking about. Make no mistake about it. I am for being a part of the Paris Accord. I am all about climate change. I believe that this is essential and extremely important. So when I talk about stewardship of creation, be a good steward over creation. Be a good steward over the environment. I've lived in countries where there's more trash on the streets than it is in the garbage can. So think about yourself as a steward. Oh, this is good. It's just good. Think about your stewardship, your behavior. I live in one of the most expensive, and I'm going to tell you the truth, communities in Houston, Texas. And when I'm out walking 12 miles a day, sometimes in this fine neighborhoods, the least expensive house over here is $750,000 US dollars. Okay? When I walk around the neighborhood for 12 miles a day, sometimes I find a burger bag that somebody was walking or maybe in the car driving through here, ate their hamburger and their fries, balled everything up in the bag, and then they threw it out the window on the ground. So when I go out for walking, you know what I do? I'm being a good steward of creation. I have these big plastic bags that I carry on my hip. It's not my job. I'm not getting paid to do it, but I'm a steward of creation. And what I do when I see it, I have a glove, I pick it up and I put it in my bag. The groundkeepers that take care of maintenance to the trees and putting down mulch and things like that, those people sometimes have slowly passed me and saw me with my bag, and they wave at me. They're Hispanic brothers, and they go, "Ah, señorita, mamacita," and they take the bag from me, and they wave at me. That's being a good steward of humanity. You're walking through the store to buy something, and you're standing right next to an item that's laying on the floor, but you don't pick it up and put it back on the shelf because your thought is, well, I didn't knock it down there. I don't need to pick it up. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. The same applies to the trash. I ain't put that trash out there to be real Southern in a vernacular now, but I pick it up because I want to be a good steward of creation. Creation is the environment around us. And as good stewards, you are participating in keeping the environment and the community and the village wholesome for everybody. That was number 8. Number 9, you are understanding the powerful role of government. What I put in my notes here is that government should promote dignity. That's what I like about President Biden. Number 1, he's a man of God, and he makes no bones about it. He's always articulating that. Love it. And I love the fact, and what I'm saying here, is that the role of government is to perform excellent roles of decency, but also of dignity. And that's also our role, whether we are in government or not. You're still a steward of humanity. And as a steward of humanity, you should care. You ought to care about humanity and the dignity that you can bring to it as a part of humanity. And finally, number 10, solidarity. It's interconnected and interdependent. All I'm saying here in closing is that solidarity is about, as I said in the beginning, it's about connectedness, it's about decency, it's about good stewardship, it's about embracing a body, an individual, or a group to make humanity, to make life better for others. This is Kashmir Solidarity Day, and I'm in hopes with your time that I greatly value that you have learned something different, that you have understood something different, that you will embrace the opportunity to expose yourself to a different style of stewardship towards Kashmir, towards Gaza, towards Israel, towards the United States, towards Myanmar. Look at what happened there. Oh my goodness. A military coup. And that's what Donald Trump tried to do with the insurrection on January 6th in this country. Didn't like that he lost legitimately. So he wanted these wild mobs, this white supremacy group, to take over the government and kill those who won in the Democratic Party. We have got to think about the time that we have with life right now. You can't rewind it. You can't go back. You can only go forward. The best use of time now is as good stewards. And solidarity is about this: coming together. Thank you very much for attending the presentation presented to you by the Institute of International Peace Leaders. I am the Executive International Director of the organization. I always welcome questions. I have seen that many of you have requested to join us, and you are getting responses. Note that sometimes our responses may not be as swiftly as you'd like, but we do try to respond within 24 to 48 hours. I leave you with this. A boss has a title, but a leader has the people. A steward, a good steward, has the people. Be a good steward. Be an advised steward. Be a steward with a heart. The only way to serve humanity, the only way to instill peace, is to have a good heart. If your heart is a heart of stone, it's from an evil place. You'll always know that you're doing a good thing and the right thing when there's a peace within. My time is up. I thank you for yours. I do believe that this is going to be available as replay if you didn't have the opportunity to join us. Stay connected, stay empowered, stay informed. Happy Kashmir Solidarity Day. Do what you can to be a blessing to others. Merci beaucoup. Bonne journée. Au revoir.